welcome to another episode of Okay Now What. Today you got Thomas, Elizabeth, Jason, and me, Greg. And so let's go ahead and get started with the congratulations, Jason, on getting an endorsement by the wonderful Marianne Williamson. I think that's so awesome. Jason, just give us a little bit on how you're feeling right now.
I'm pretty ecstatic. It's great. She's, if there was any candidate in the race that I could have seen myself actually getting behind, aside from Bernie, it would have been Marianne. I really didn't know much about her until the first time I saw her in debate. And I thought her perspective was, I didn't agree with all the things that she was saying, but I thought that her perspective on making, it's like if you want to have a successful relationship, if you want to have a successful family, you center those relationships on love and really giving instead of taking. And I really feel like she's grounded in understanding that we come to a place of political healing, healing between all peoples and uplifting each other by having love for our fellow human beings. And so it's I think it's a great perspective on the world. I'm very proud to have her endorsement. Her political director, Howie Klein, invited me. I just want to shout this out there for a second. He runs a blog called Down with Tyranny. And so if you search Down with Tyranny, he's going to publish an article that I wrote over the last couple of days. He's going to publish it tomorrow, so look for that. And it's basically about the incumbent that I'm running against in my race in Washington 2nd Congressional District. Guy who's been in there for 10 terms, 20 years, complete corporate lackey. And we're doing our best to get the information out there on how bad of a representative he is, because he flies very much under the radar in terms of how bad he is. But, we just have to talk about those things. So a lot of great opportunities with that endorsement. I'm extremely grateful, and I really appreciate the shout out for it here.
Yeah, of course. And y'all listen at home, check him out, call for Congress, show him some love, donate. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So let's go ahead and let's talk about some news, y'all. So Joe Biden went on to a CNN town hall, and let's just go ahead and watch because I'm pissed. No, that's later. That's later, guys.
Loans are crushing my family, friends, and fellow Americans.
Me too.
The American dream is to succeed, but how can we fulfill that dream when debt is many people's only option for a degree? We need student loan forgiveness beyond the potential $10,000 your administration has proposed. We need at least a $50,000 minimum. What will you do to make that happen?
I will not make that happen. It depends on whether or not you go to a private university or a public university. It depends on the idea that I say to a community, I'm going to forgive the debt, the billions of dollars of debt for people who have gone to Harvard and Yale and Penn and schools. My children, I went to a great school, I went to a state school. But is that going to be forgiven rather than use that money to provide for early education for young children who come from disadvantaged circumstances? But here's what I think. I think everyone, and I've been proposing this for 4 years, everyone should be able to go to community college for free. For free. That costs $9 billion, and we should pay for it. And the tax policies we have now, we should be able to pay for it. You spend almost that much money as a break for people who own racehorses. And I think any family making under $125,000 whose kids go to a state university they get into.
Okay, so there you have it. He said no, he's not interested in canceling the debt. He goes on to say, if we cancel the debt, then we can't have early childhood education. He obviously knows that canceling the debt helps close the racial wealth gap, but of course he's ignorant on that as well. Elizabeth, what do you think about this? Oh, you are muted, sweetie.
Sorry. Well, it's a huge disappointment just because we find ourselves in a pandemic and a lot of people could use that relief. And I believe there's a lot of data out there that demonstrates that we are the first generation that's has like a lower living standard than generations before us. And that just demonstrates that data, statistics, that we need to make a drastic change on how we do education here in the United States. And it's just really disappointing because how are we going to compete in the job market when we don't have a society that we are prioritizing on educating them to meet those demands? And I just feel like it's just a burden that people shouldn't have to carry when they pursue education.
Yeah, I agree. Thomas, so Joe Biden also mentioned that it would be helping wealthy people out, but that's not the case. Wealthy people don't have student loan debt. What was your take on that response?
Well, I think people forget that it's not just wealthy people that go to Harvard or like these institutions, you know, like there's so many people of, you know, just because you go to what you would class as like a, I don't know, like a upper class institution doesn't mean that you're from an upper class background that has a load of money. That's just not true. And so the idea that to not give people loan relief just because you go to Harvard, it's like this. I'd rather, the way that they're looking at it is that they're scared of helping out 100 people that don't need help rather than that one person that does need help, right? And so the policy should be, even if it helps out 100 wealthy families, right, at least we'll be helping that one family that desperately needs that help, right?
Yeah.
And what they're not, and you can have it both ways. You can get that money back by instituting a wealth tax, right? If you're really concerned about wealthy families benefiting from loan relief, you just reclaim it back later down the road in the form of a wealth tax. And so this idea that you can't do this also needs to be it needs to be shot down, and it needs to be, people need to understand that he could do $50,000 in loan relief, or his Secretary of Education can just go ahead and cancel the whole lot. His Secretary of Education, I mean, it's, you just go online, go on Twitter or whatever. There's numerous posts from activists and organizations saying that Biden has the power to literally just wipe out all student debt without the need of going to Congress.
There is no limit.
There's no limit. So, you know, it's just they're making excuses because he just doesn't want to do it. Fundamentally, doesn't want to do it.
I think one of the things that we have to recognize here, and a lot of these policy walkbacks with the minimum wage, and so first of all, I don't look at the student loan cancellation as a matter of relief. I look at it as a matter of something that shouldn't exist to begin with. And we should be providing education as a matter of public investment. And the idea that we have to tax the wealthy in order to pay for this is absolutely ludicrous. The federal government can pay for anything it wants. They never talk about taxing the wealthy when they want to spend money on war or when they want to do, you know, obviously tax cuts. But, you know, I mean, there is an idea, and it's pervasive among the American public, that the federal government is limited by its budget, and it's absolutely not. I mean, you can't go spending willy-nilly on things. I mean, the things that are really harmful to the debt and the deficit are things like war spending, where you're spending money on bullets and bombs that have absolutely no return to society and cause a whole lot of harm, rather than the investments in the things that we really need, which are education and public housing and healthcare. And the idea that our federal government takes a position that they can't pay for this, or that they're going to be paying off, you know, stuff for rich people, is absolutely ludicrous. So the thing that I want to follow up on that is that is what we have is a system of class oppression. and that is how it is being managed. So I am taking the cynical approach, although I think it is the informed approach, that these policies are on purpose to keep an underclass going in the society that is now reliant on the wealthy for their very existence. And it's it's thankfully it's one of the things that eventually leads to a real people's revolution.
Yeah.
if I couldn't say anything about it.
Can I just mention one more thing? So Joe Biden mentions he wants to make community college free. And I just feel like maybe people that are more moderate, that might be like, well, that's a good deal. But a lot of communities, a lot of cities, a lot of states have already made community college free, like the state of Texas, not Texas, the state of Tennessee with a Republican governor. You don't get like kudos.
You mentioned a Republican governor. You mentioned a Republican governor because this is popular across the aisle. But moderate Dems don't care about their base. So they don't care. So they're just going to vote against it and go with their donors. You made a very good point, Elizabeth. Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's continue some more disappointing news about Joe Biden. And so he went ahead.
It's going to be a trend.
Yes, it's a trend of tonight's show, y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen yet again. I hear a kitty.
Yeah.
So President Biden had just issued a new guidance, only abandoning his pledge to halt deportations. The ACLU says that this is a disappointing step backward from the Biden administration's earlier comments to fully break from the harmful policies of both Trump and Obama. Now you got to remember who was there in Obama. It was Joe Biden. The ACLU released this. If it wants to load, thank you. So the memo is a disappointing step backward from Biden's administration's earlier commitments to fully break from the harmful policies. While Biden's administration rightfully acknowledges that immigrants are our family members, our coworkers, our neighbors, for now it has chosen to continue giving ICE officers significant discretion to conduct operations that harm our communities and tear our families apart. They go on and continue, but they go on. They mention we expect better from the Biden administration and believe that in the next 90 days, we'll continue to reaffirm the need to force ICE to downscale its operations, including by ending ICE programs that tap state and local law enforcement for immigration enforcement. We need to abolish ICE, period. But the fact that he made a promise, not just as an administration, but as a candidate in a presidential campaign, he made a promise. Day one, we're going to release the kids out of cages. Kids are still in cages, y'all. Kids are still in cages. Thomas, go ahead and give me something.
I mean, I'm sorry, but this is very on brand for Biden. With the Biden-Obama administration, 2012 alone, they deported over 400,000 people in 1 year. 400,000 people. And so I like to think that he would do something with the pressure. But I don't know if you remember in the primary where he told the immigrant activists to go vote for Trump because he was just simply asking that he has the power to stop all deportations on day one. He he didn't care. So at this point, I've just accepted that he's complicit.
Oh yeah,
he's complicit. He's complicit with. He's okay with what ICE is doing to people. In fact, him reopening that overflow facility in Texas has now meant that 700 children are now, because of what's happened in Texas, it must be it must be, I can't even imagine what it must be like right now for those children in that facility. I mean, it's already bad to begin with. They're already sleeping on stone cold floors with some of them just didn't even have anything warm. Didn't have anything to begin with. So it's what's going on there is, in any other country, the United States would probably invade them for what they're doing in terms of human rights abuses. But this is where we are.
Elizabeth, what's your response to this?
Yeah, I think like what Thomas was saying, it's on brand on the Biden and the Obama administration. It's the kind of same like neoliberal policies. And it's just disappointing because Arizona was delivered to Joe Biden by a lot of Latinx immigrant coalitions that got out the vote. And not just in Arizona, but in multiple states. So a lot of people of color and Black organizations organized to deliver his victory, and then he's just going to kind of disregard one of the main policy issues that a lot of people care about.
Well, and if I may break in, particularly with the Trump administration.
My last point would just be like, it's a money-making thing. That's why.
Oh, it is.
That's why it's still happening. Go ahead, Jason.
I wanted to follow up with your point, because it was a very important point that a lot of people really, when people talked about how bad the Trump administration was, one of the things that they focused on specifically was the immigration issues and the border, ICE and the border patrol and the conditions in the concentration camps at the border. That was one of the selling points as to why the Biden administration was going to be so much better than the Trump administration. So to walk that back is, I personally, I find it offensive, and I think a lot of people don't understand about asylum being a human right. And then the other thing, I mean, I hate to take a dig on my fellow Americans, but a lot of people don't realize that people are not coming to this country because they quote unquote want to find opportunity in America. They are being pushed out of their own countries by the poor economic conditions there that have largely been and war that have largely been created by America. And a lot of these people know they get sent back home. They are going to be abused by their own governments. And so it's the human rights abuses go beyond just the fact that we are not treating these people well here in our country. It's what are we sending them back to?
Yeah, it's insane, because what really irritates me is that was a campaign promise. And when you said like that we're going to be better than the Trump administration, well then do it. Because right now you're not doing jack shit.
And the sad part is that there are so many of these brunch liberals that they're gonna make some kind of excuse for this. They're gonna fall back on, well, Trump was worse. And it is such a failed mode of thinking that you can't take the things that you ran on and actually make them happen, that you don't have the power to make that happen. And just like Thomas said, it's because they are complicit. I mean, it's if they don't exercise the power that they have to actually resolve this problem in a humanitarian way, it's because they don't want to.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to move on. So this week, Trump was acquitted. I mean, we all saw that coming. The Senate, I believe it was 57 to 43 or something like that, voted to not convict. And The View went ahead and had this discussion, and Meghan McCain had something to say. So let's go ahead and what she has to say with all this. Pissed me off.
So Meghan, what's your thoughts on all of this as you sit and you watched what happened over the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of different thoughts. I mean, I think it's easy to say that the Republican Party is only the party of QAnon and, you know, all these things. If that's the truth, then the Democratic Party is the party of socialism and late-term abortion and cancel culture and no responsibility or ramifications for any of your actions. And you can burn down cities like Kenosha and it's fine and there's no ramifications. These are broad stroke platitudes. I don't believe either are true. I don't think Republicans are simply QAnon supporters. I don't think Democrats are simply socialists. And the
Okay, so that's why I wanted to share, because that's what really pissed me off, y'all. Here's the difference between the Republicans' QAnon crap and painting the idea that all Democrats are socialists. Democratic leadership and the establishment are obviously not socialists. They continue, I know, God, I wish, and continue to paint themselves not socialists. The Republican establishment and leadership loves this QAnon crap and are going for it because they are still wrapped around Trump's little finger and are afraid that they say anything else, they're going to lose their seats. So that's the difference between the two, Megan. And she wants to go on and talk about riots, comparing the riots on January 6th to Kenosha. Are you kidding me? This woman just loves to paint false equivalencies. Any one of you, please jump in.
Well, I would say I think this is an important thing because the one topic that we were going to talk about, we decided not to talk about. This would be the time to talk about it, as Meghan McCain is talking about the moral responsibility and QAnon conspiracies that are
with
deep
Stephen
with
Schmidt,
like child abuse,
yeah.
and that now you go to the Republicans and Stephen Schmidt and the Lincoln Project, and they've been covering up child abuses and predatory
It's so bad, y'all.
actions. And so it is, but I don't want to give them a pass without saying that the Democrats do this shit also. I mean, the Republicans will make excuses for their own failings, and the Democrats will make excuses for their own failings. God knows we're going to see Jen Psaki feeding us that spin, like what I have heard come out of her mouth in the last month. I'm like, this is Sarah Huckabee Sanders all over again. She just got blue painted on her face. That's all. That's the only difference. So neither of the political parties actually know how to own their own shortcomings.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, that was just a little fun segment. I just hate her so much. I just have to put her on blast. Now, but let's move on to something. So Texas has been dealing with crazy blizzards and snowstorms, and obviously, climate change events are happening there because it doesn't usually snow that much in Texas. But guess who decided to escape the cold while his people are dying? Ted Cruz was spotted in an airport going to Cancun. He wanted to, save himself his bad decision by basically saying, "Oh, I was trying to be a good father and my kids wanted to go." I'm sorry. When I wanted to go to Disneyland, I was like, "Nah, you can't." Were they being a bad parent? No. Tell your kids no. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this, Elizabeth?
I really hope, well, first of all, my heart goes out to the people in Texas who are suffering. And I remember one time I went camping and we had the wrong equipment and it was so freezing. And that wasn't sub-zero temperatures. So I can't even imagine trying to as a parent, trying to provide for your children. So my heart really goes out to them. And then the second thing is just, I really hope the people in Texas create this really mass movement and huge voter turnout and get him out, because he does not deserve to represent people in Texas. Somebody else can go ahead and talk about the infrastructure and the whole problem there.
Yeah, anyone want to jump in, Thomas?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, this isn't an isolated issue in terms of representatives. I mean, this is across the board. I mean, you got what came out of Andrew Cuomo this week. That is another. That is Nixon Gate kind of scandal.
That is Nixon Gate.
Yeah, that's a whole half hour by itself.
That is a whole other thing. But
that's next week's, y'all.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's very on brand for Ted Cruz. He just didn't defend his wife when Trump was running in 2016. That was, you know, it's like he'll deflect any sort of like responsibility at his shoulders. And you know, another thing that's happened with AOC raising all that money with Beto O'Rourke, I mean, you shouldn't have to resort to charity in order to solve a government crisis. And this just shows how inept the system is to dealing with like catastrophic catastrophes that the government should be dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, it shouldn't have to resort to people just doing a GoFundMe on a national scale. But that's where we are right now. And this makes me a little bit nervous going forward with climate change and how the government's going to react to these things going forward. Because if this is the example that we're being given, something needs to happen.
So the thing that I wanted to say about this is one, and as AOC rightly pointed out, that this is a failure of an archaic energy grid that we should be making massive federal investments into to upgrade and make green and make sustainable. But the second thing I wanted to identify with this is the way, you know, a number of the liberals have come out and said the people of Texas deserve this, and I think it's absolutely horrendous. I retweeted something by Marina Sirtis of Star Trek, what was it, Next Generation or Deep Space Nine or whatever, I don't, Counselor Troy. But she had said, you know, I feel badly for the people of Texas, but the mean girl in me says that they deserve it because of the people that they are electing. And I think that is the most awful and inhumane take.
It is,
as
not
if the kids that are suffering
for them,
as if the kids that are suffering right there, right now, had any part in electing the, you know, but to come out and say you have compassion and then laugh at human suffering is, you know, it's classic neoliberalism though, you know. So anyway, and that's all I wanted to say about that.
And there's huge voter suppression in Texas too.
Oh, absolutely God. There is.
You know,
absolutely
to disregard that reality, like that's
Yep.
All right, and let's welcome from Pennsylvania, Alexandra Hunt. Thank you for joining.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So you are running for Congress in Pennsylvania's 3rd district. I believe that includes Philadelphia, correct?
Yes, that's most of Philly.
Yeah, so I want to go ahead and show your campaign video. So I want to show that to the audience, and then we'll get on to our segment.
I never thought to run for a political office. I'm a researcher and a soccer coach, an advocate and an organizer. But as I've watched jobs slip from people's grasp, houses seized, bankruptcies filed, and the next meal become a question, I've realized there's no more time to wait for change. I don't come from money or a powerful family. My parents are both educators, and I grew up alongside a twin brother who struggled with a learning disability in a world that was not meant to see him succeed. I've waited tables, struggled with student debt, and put the work in to become a survivor, not a victim, of sexual assault. My vision for America is grounded in our humanity, to be a country that values both inclusivity and diversity and seeks to restore and rehabilitate rather than punish and penalize. Working within the realm of public health, I've seen families struggle with poverty, with drug addiction, homelessness, a lack of health care, and a lack of mental health support. We need a representative who stands by the needs of the people and champions real change. My opponent campaigned on universal health care, yet failed to vote for Medicare for all. He played a key role in the shifting landscape of education in Philadelphia, setting up charter schools that took voice away from educators and parents and led to further segregation within our school system. He has a history of voting on behalf of his corporate donors funding his campaign, but we need a representative who cannot be bought and works only to serve the needs of our people. We need to reinvest in education and give power back to teachers and parents, provide universal childcare, support the Green New Deal, increase the minimum wage, pass Medicare for all, and fight for criminal justice reform. I'm running for Congress not only to answer to the cries of our children, but to amend for the transgressions of my ancestors. It's time to invest in America's true potential and build the world we all want to be a part of. My name is Alexandra Hunt, and I'm running for the 3rd congressional seat of Pennsylvania to take our struggle, our ideas, and our fight all the way to Washington. I never thought to run for a political.
That was a really good, I just want to say that, like that was a really good launch ad. It had everything that you stand for, even included your opponent, who, by the way, that was a very like, hey, this guy is not great. You know, that was a really good close up on what he's been doing. Go ahead and give us some more detail on what you've been doing so far since you've launched.
Well, I think since I've launched, I've gotten a good amount of positive feedback. I think some people were a little surprised, but people are generally supportive of what I'm running for. So that's been great to see. It's been pretty busy. I am still working, so running a campaign and working at the same time, it's just, you're constantly going.
Yeah, and what do you do for a living?
I work at a small biotech that specializes in cancer therapy.
Wow. See, this is what I really love. Everyday people who want to make change run for office. This is why I tell people, like, if you have the urge to do it, please do it. Like Jason here, who's running for Washington 2nd. So anyone, go ahead and jump in if you want.
Well, if I can jump in just because I'm a candidate also, I want to say your ad was really fantastic. How long has Evans been in office?
He's had a political career of 41 years.
Okay. So the one thing that I would like to offer you as advice is to really dig deeply into the money that he takes and the votes that he makes. And it's one of the things that I have been extremely for. I talk about this with my campaign all the time. I have great opposition research, and on my website we have built a narrative of my opponent who has been in this seat for 20 years, of all of the money he's taken and all of the votes that you've made that have not been in support of the public good. And I'd love to work with you and give you some guidance on that if you're interested in it. You know, not saying you have to. But I think it's so important for people to understand that the people who are representing them right now are absolutely dissatisfactory to what our needs are. So I really congratulate you for stepping up against that and recognizing that.
Thank you.
So you mentioned in the video that Dwight Evans has had a history of making bad votes that obviously reflects his corporate donors, and you made a claim in the video that his decisions had furthered segregation in schools, but him being, you know, African American, that looks a little weird. What has he done? Is there any more detail that you can provide what he has done when it comes to that?
To the school portion, or
yeah, like the furthering the segregation of the schools.
Yeah, I mean, he pushed for charter schools, and then we now have charter schools, and basically Philadelphia public school system is really struggling. And there's been issues with funding. There's been issues with our the structure of our buildings and the safety of them. And even before the pandemic, but especially with the pandemic. So yeah, he's yeah, he was part of the final push that got charter schools into Philly.
Wow.
And
Elizabeth, go ahead.
yeah, I also have a question, and congratulations on running. And I'm really excited because we do need people who are not afraid to fight for things like the Green New Deal. And you did mention Medicare for all. What do you think right now is the most difficult part of getting a single payer Medicare for all at the federal level? And how do you think you can go ahead and change that there? I know in California, we're trying to pursue single payer for the state because we are kind of not seeing the pathway at the federal level.
I don't think we really see that pathway at the state level. I'm not sure how in tune you are with Pennsylvania politics, but the state is run by the GOP, and it's tough to get anything through. I think the biggest argument that people have is, how are we going to pay for this? Mm-hmm. And it's the same way that we can pay for proposals like a wall or corporate bailouts. There is the money there. It depends how we're prioritizing it. And the biggest argument against it is simply complacency with our system and not imagining a different possibility. So I think just pushing that this could be very real and it's very possible, and talking to people about it and educating them.
Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, with the charter school system in Pennsylvania, is that gonna have like a knock-on effect in terms of like teachers unions, like in terms of this rollout of reopening schools that we're so adamant on doing? Is there is there going to be less protections because of these with the charter school system?
Yeah. Ever since the incumbent did that, our teachers union in Philly has been actively fighting to get him out of office.
Yeah.
And then in terms with the pandemic, they've been pretty active protesting against going back into unsafe buildings and prioritizing the vaccination of teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jason, you were about to say something.
Well, just some things Alexandra said about, is it Alexandra or are you short for, is it Alex short for short?
I use both.
Either way, okay. So as Alex was talking about the prioritizing of funding, so I'm wondering if you have looked into modern monetary theory at all and how things get paid for at the federal level versus the state level.
Yes, I was alluding to modern monetary theory.
Okay, good. So yeah, I mean, what we know is that the government, just because they spend whenever they want to spend, they can just spend and invest in these healthcare, in Medicare for all, or in good public transportation, green public transportation, or public housing, or any of these things that are societal needs, in the same way that they bring up these gigantic war budgets, whenever. Constantly. So it is a matter of prioritizing, but it's not a matter of saying we need to spend here and so we don't need to spend there. I mean, they can just take money and say we're going to spend here, but they should not spend there.
Yeah.
No.
So
yeah,
I agree.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear that you're down with modern monetary theory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So in your video, you mentioned you've coached soccer. You're just a regular person. What made you want to just do this run?
I think it was a moment. It was a buildup of the pandemic hitting, and then just the lack of government response. Frankly, the total abandonment of our government, and then the climbing numbers of death, the inequities in our deaths, in the people being unhoused, or who already were unhoused. And then I was out at a food distribution site, and I was just looking at how long the line was, and it was wrapping down the block, and I was just like, what am I waiting for? This needs to change. So I decided to run.
Wow, I think that is truly, truly amazing. So where can people go and give you some love? So shout out your social media, your website. Go ahead and do that.
My website is Alexandra M as in Mary, AlexandraMHunt.com. And then my social media is Alexandra Hunt for Congress on Instagram, and on Twitter, it's AHunt, the number 4 Congress. And I have a Facebook page as well. And I have TikTok.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, if you if people want to volunteer, they can also go to your website.
That's through the website. Yep.
Can I throw in one more question?
Yeah, of course.
What's your local network like for building your campaign? How do you feel about where you are and where you need to be in terms of getting that growth and the name recognition and so on?
The name recognition is going to be very hard against this longtime incumbent. I think that I'm a grassroots organizer, so I'm at the grassroots talking to people and just kind of networking. I'm meeting with people in the districts pretty regularly throughout the week, and just one by one trying to get the movement out there so that people know that there's a progressive candidate in the district, and to stay hopeful and to stay engaged.
Well, hopefully when things open up and everyone gets vaccinated, maybe you can hold an event at Woody's. So I don't know if you're familiar with Woody's. When I went to visit Philadelphia last year before pandemic happened, and things got lit at Woody's, y'all. It's a wonderful gay bar. So they would love you. Well, everyone go ahead.
And no, I love Woody's.
I love it. So please, everyone, show Alexandra some love. Go ahead and check her out. Thank you so much for being here, especially that it's 10, almost 11 on the East Coast. Sorry about the confusion.
That's right. That's kind of on me. I didn't see the Pacific Standard Time, but thank you for having me. It was nice meeting you all.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you. You take care.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Put some good tweets out and I'll retweet them.
Guys, and that concludes our episode of Okay Now What? Please, if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe, hit the like, ring the bell for notifications. If you're watching us on IG, show some love, give us a follow, share our video, and just check us out on social media. Our information's down below in the description, and we will see you next week. Take care.